recording, and then I'm going to share my screen. And Michael, can you see my best practices?
Best practices for working from home, Boise region, Idaho, SBDC.
Wow, cool, excellent. Okay, so now I just need to, I'm going to let you, hi Kelly, I'm going to let you talk. I'm not going to bother with the chat. So if you are so inclined, just yell out, speak out, say something. So, but I will tell you, we are recording for posterity. And if that's all right with you, we'll definitely put it on a private YouTube channel and send it to the participants who registered and didn't come or haven't made it. But if you want, I can put it out on the public if you don't care. And that way it's there for posterity until it's no good. So anyhow, my name is Kim Sherman Labrum. I am the training coordinator for the Small Business Development Center here in Boise, and I'm also a business consultant who has a specialty in online, pretty much everything, online advertising, social networking, websites, you name it. That's kind of the area I live in. Are both of you somewhat familiar with the Small Business Development Center and what we do? So Kelly is. How about you, Michael?
Not so much.
Okay, well, great. Then I'll be happy to give you my little elevator pitch. So the Small Business Development Center is an organization that is federally and state funded to assist small businesses become more successful. And we do that through one-on-one confidential consulting. Wow, I need to work the tongue stuff out a little bit today. And then we also do trainings, usually back in pre-COVID days, PC, right? There was trainings that we did in person, and we would do them together and meet in the room. And now we're all virtual and online. And it'll be interesting to see post-COVID what happens. I think there'll probably be a hybrid going on of, in person and virtual as well. So we also have access to students, because we are based at Boise State University. We have access to students and student projects for small businesses. And we also have 2 accelerator spaces, one of which is in downtown Boise, kind of right by the Flying M, if you're familiar. And the other is in Nampa, right behind the Idaho Center. And those are spaces that we call them accelerator now, but they used to be called incubators. So it's kind of that space where new and fledgling businesses come and they get office space and they get internet and they get phones and they get support, and there's mail, and there's training rooms and conference rooms and stuff that they can use. And then also we have a mentor that is on site pretty much all the time, so that they have just somebody there holding their hand and walking along and helping them be more successful, and until the point where they can go out on their own and stand on their own 2 legs. So much like an incubator raises those chicks so that they're able to go out in the yard, we do the same thing with small businesses. So anyhow, so those are the main things that we do. We also network. We have been around for 34 years. I had to do the math real quick. 34 years. And so we have a pretty good reach in the business community. We have locations all over the state of Idaho. So because we're virtual, I will ask you here in a second about where y'all are from, but I'm based in Boise. Normally my office is at the Boise State University College of Business and Economics building. Of course, I'm working from home right now. And we have other locations in Post Falls, Lewiston, Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, and Pocatello, and they're all affiliated with institutions of higher learning. The SBDC program is nationwide. There are somewhere in the area of 1,100 SBDCs throughout the US and its territories, as well as I just found out last fall that Canada has an SBDC program as well. They just don't call it SBDCs. So we're kind of everywhere, which is really nice. And so if you regardless of where you're at, you can get this assistance, and it is free. Sometimes there's a small charge for some of our trainings, but not very often. And it's one of the greater things that I think that your tax dollars pay for. So Kelly, tell me, unmute yourself and tell me where you're at and what's your business real quick.
I'm currently sitting in Meridian, Idaho, and I am a financial advisor. I'm an independent contractor with First Command Financial Services.
Okay.
So, and I have offices in Meridian and Mountain Home, and I'm just starting to work out of our office in Spokane.
Oh, wow.
Washington. So
You get around a little bit, don't you? A little bit of
yeah,
traveling.
I haven't done it yet. Not up to
Okay.
Spokane, but I do spend a lot of time going between Mountain Home and Meridian.
Yeah.
So work with our clients, mainly a military audience, but we do work with civilians as well.
That makes sense. Excellent. So Michael, tell us about you.
I live in Boise, Idaho as well. I am a coach and consultant. I mainly work with relationships, both marriages and business relationships, and I am also I'm calling myself a trauma coach these days. I'm realizing that a lot of the issues that people bring to me, what's underlying them is trauma, and not necessarily just like PTSD from major events the way we normally think of trauma, but all kinds of impacts of the things that have happened to us in life. And so I'm deeply involved with working with people on different ways to access the ways that trauma has impacted our nervous system, so it opens up more possibility for people. And I've long done a lot of groups, particularly men's groups, but I also do groups for women and for couples. And so a lot of my work has been in person. I had an office in a big room where people would meet in the evenings and where I would meet with clients. But all that has changed now because of the pandemic. So I've moved my business home. You can see I'm in my wife's in my bedroom now. And I'm doing groups online. I figured out how to do that. And I mean, I've done a lot of trainings and various things online anyway. So that's really where the focus of my work is right now. And of course, I'm seeing a lot of the impact of this pandemic on people, both impact on relationships and impact financially. Is sort of making me much more aware of the work I do and making it very relevant to people. So it's been a shift for me working at home, working in a home environment, in a home office. So I just came today for some tips.
Great. Well, good. I hope that, well, I know that we'll have at least one or two that I've got 28 or so. So there's got to be at least 3 tidbits in there that you haven't heard before. So, but great. So it's interesting. I'm actually working with 1, 2, 3 counselors, at least 3, that mental health counselors and stuff. And so, of course, they're all, dealing with this COVID as well, and how, their business is doing very well because they're all, we're all dealing with this crisis. And, a lot of us aren't realizing that it is necessarily a crisis. It's just for a lot of us, we're working from home, and it just seems, just weird, but forgetting that, we're dealing with something that's so bizarre and it's going to have long-term ramifications. And so I think that's really interesting that you're already recognizing that and pivoting. And I will suspect that your business will continue to grow as we get out of the crisis stage and people have to go back to regular life, whatever that consists of. So, all right. Well, oh wow, that is kind of blurry. I didn't think that was. My apologies. That didn't look blurry on the smaller screen, but now that I've got it blown up, it looks really horrible. But you can recognize it. So, there's a gentleman who I really enjoy. He's just a really great speaker. His name is Dan Thurman, and he does videos weekly, coaching videos, and he said that this is the now normal rather than the new normal. And I really like that, the way he framed that is that it's not really the new normal, although it kind of is, but it's our now normal, and it will continue to change. And so we had the normal, or what was normal to us previous, where we would meet with people in person and stuff, and now I see a picture like this where everybody's kind of together in a room and everything, and it's starting to look a little weird to me already, right? It's what, 6 weeks, and this already looks kind of weird, like seeing people together. So and now we're starting to do things like these Zoom pictures and showing that off. So that's becoming the now normal, and we have to adjust to it. And so I just want you to, anybody who's watching this or being aware that, this is kind of how we're going to adjust and how we need to make changes. So and it may not be forever, but it might be for a while. So one of the big things that I think needs to be done is establishing a routine. So for many of us, we had an office, and we would get up and we would do our morning routine, and we'd get in the car and we would go to work. And then I'm at work because I have a workspace. And so when we all kind of got booted, at least I don't know about you, but for me at Boise State, I was literally working in the office, and I had went to visit a client, and I got an email that said, you are no longer welcome on campus, basically, for all intents and purposes. Said, please don't come back until we let you know. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had to, kind of adjust. I didn't expect that would happen, and I should have, I suppose, but that was like a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And so, I kind of had the weekend to figure out, what am I going to do? And I thought my problem with that is I didn't really think it was going to last. Oh, I was so innocent back then. And so I just kind of didn't. So I did maintain, my morning routine where I would get up and, do the normal things and stuff. But then it kind of devolved from there. So the first couple of weeks of my working at home were not as great or successful. But one thing I think is, establish your routine, whatever it's going to be, and adjust it. And, my now routine is, now that I have a dedicated space that I'm in, I literally, I have a green screen, so you might be able to see that behind me. And later on, I may show you different backgrounds that I have because I'm using Zoom and they allow that. And I think it's very fun. Sometimes I adjust my background based on who I'm talking to, but sometimes it's just kind of a plain nondescript one. So but I put up my green screen, and then I kiss my husband goodbye, and he's literally, 20 feet away, but I kiss him goodbye. And I'm like, I'm commuting to work. And so it makes that, that's my trigger for, I'm going to work and I'm going to be at work. And then I'm, unless something comes up, I don't really talk to my husband throughout the day, even though we're really kind of still sharing the same space. So my routine is coming in and, sitting down and doing that. And that's changed. So however your routine was and whatever your routine is now. And I'm interested, Kelly, how about you? So you said that you're working in your office, right? So has your routine?
I'm working from home.
Your home, but in your home, and you have a space that you're doing, right?
It's the corner of the living room.
Okay, I understand.
So my commute is 5 feet from here to the living room.
Right. And so
yeah.
So and then so think about, what is your routine, and what can you change to kind of normalize what we're doing right now? That's a big one. And also be aware that you may have to revise that routine and change it. And so Michael, what about you? Do you just like kind of do your breakfast and then go into the bedroom and call it good, or you just roll out of bed and call it good?
I'm notoriously bad at creating a routine. I've been self-employed for most of my life, so I just kind of do what I'm going to do. I have certain things that are routine, but they're mostly about feeding myself.
And sometimes that's where we have to start, right? And I always thought I'm going to be terrible at working from home. I would just be so distracted and blah, 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 blah. And, that was true at first. But, once, like I said, the routine was one of the things. And I'm going to go to the next thing. So, hello. Okay. There we go. Don't stay in bed. So I know that there are people out there that, they're using their bedroom, obviously, and they stay in bed, and they have like a desk tray, and they do everything from bed. And this is a really not great for a lot of reasons. So if you are forward facing, like you're meeting with clients or something, it's hard to look professional while you're sitting in bed. And I think that mentally it really is harder on you to make the delineation between work and not work. And also, when you do a lot of things in your bed that aren't sleep, then it starts to mess with your sleep routines. And I know that a lot of people are experiencing disruptions in sleep now. And I'm wondering part of it is the fact that we're in crisis, right? But part of it is we're working from our beds or our bedrooms or something like this. So if, in your case, Michael, make sure that you're obviously not in the bed, or part of your routine is you make the bed, and then you go sit at the desk or whatever it's going to be, but please don't stay in bed. Get dressed.
Head above your head.
Yeah, have it up there. So get dressed. And I will admit I might be wearing jammy pants right now as we speak. And no shoes, which is not how I would go into the office, right? But I get up, I do my routine, I put on makeup, I do my hair, even though I put on the headphones and it ruins the hair, but I did it. So, and then I put on, the upper part of me is very professional. I heard somebody call it the Zoom mullet.
Yep.
Which made me laugh.
And party on the bottom.
Exactly. And so I thought, okay, and depending on how you are, what you need, right? I was putting on, what I now call my outdoor pants, and wearing them. And I realized that, that's just not as comfortable. And I will say that, my office chair that I have right at the moment isn't the most comfortable. I've made it a lot more comfortable. And so I'm like, okay, I need something else to make it more comfortable. So, but getting dressed for me really helped set that routine, is that, okay, I'm dressed and I'm ready to face my clients, because, I was able to transition personally 100% online and meet with clients just like we're doing right now, and do trainings just like we're doing right now, with really no blip as far as anything goes that way. And so it just makes me feel really ready to talk to those people and know that, we're ready to roll. So whatever part of dressed it is for you, I would highly recommend it. So okay, creating your work triggers, right? So for me, it is putting up the green screen, kissing my husband goodbye, and coming in and sitting down. And I have my cup of, what I'm drinking, and I'm ready to kind of start with my email and everything. And I'm at work, and so I'm very focused. I'm in my space, and so those are my work triggers. And everybody has different ones, but I think setting up some kind of trigger so that it mentally realigns you. Okay. Dedicated space. The first 2 weeks, I was working from my comfy chair in the living room, literally 5 feet away from my husband, who has been laid off, and he's doing a lot of writing. And so he already had a routine where he would write for several hours a day. But having me right on top of him talking the whole time was really, and then, you know, if I got done, I'd be like, hey honey, how's it going? And I'd interrupt his flow. And so it was really not a great space. And then of course we have cats, and the cats would jump up behind me and wander around, you know, and basically just be obnoxious, right? If I had children, they would probably be the same thing. So finally, you know, I gave in, and I dedicated a workspace. I cleaned off my desk. Lord help us all. I cleaned the desk. I got the computer all set up. I got the chair. I put pads on the chair and got it all ready. And I have my green screen there, and I have a lamp over here. And so I'm ready. Everything that I need is right here. And so, you know, that's also part of the trigger, is now my workspace is really ready to go. And I actually really enjoy my workspace now. I miss my office in Boise. I'm not going to lie. My office is beautiful, and it looks right up on the train depot, and it's very spacious. And so I miss that. But having this dedicated space in my home has really mentally helped me realign and deal with this and stop feeling like I was in crisis mode the whole time, and start to normalize this and be like, okay, I can do other things. So I'm sure Michael knows this, but you know, when your brain's in crisis mode, it doesn't do well to do much more than survive. So I was able to kind of get through my workday and, you know, get some food, and then there was just nothing else. I didn't have capacity to do anything else. And so once I have established all of these things, and now the crisis mode for me has pretty much dissipated, and I'm able to go, oh, I can do whatever, plant a thing, work on, you know, a craft project or whatever. So I now have the mental capacity to do some of these things. So is this ringing true with the two of you at all, or some? I see Kelly nodding a little bit, so that's great.
The
Good.
workspace is huge.
It is. It's so,
have that and be able to put that mindset, especially when the commute is so short.
yeah. I do I like joking. I'm like, I'm going to do my 5-foot commute. It is, some of it is very fun. So, okay. So your space, you know, make sure that your space is free of distractions. I'm sure you all saw this gentleman, what was it, a year ago, where his children basically invaded his workspace. It's a very funny video. And he, you know, the young child came in, then the baby came in, and then the mom came in and grabbed both of them and yanked them out. It's just an amusing video. And so we all have these things happen, right? And so try to be as free from distractions as you can. And so that was, moving into my space has made it so much easier. Like I said, I don't have the cat walking, you know, behind me. It doesn't make it completely free. Like I have another cat who is older, and you know, I was in the middle of a meeting with a client, and he pooped on the floor right beside me. So it's not completely free of distractions, but it's better than it was, right? And, you know, especially
is being from home, we're now giving a human face to people, because when stuff like that happens, I mean, who doesn't hear the barking dog, or it's like, oh yeah. And so you have that way of making that connection with people that you might not have if you were physically in an office together, only in business mind.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, but it also tends to break down some of that, you know, professional wall, which is kind of important in what I do and what Michael does, and what you do as well, right? And so we have to be careful, and that's why I chose to have a green screen behind me, so that I can block out, you don't have to see the rest of my house. And honestly, I don't have to worry about cleaning my house. I don't have to worry about my husband wandering through. It's good. So we're all fine. But you know, whatever's going to work for you. The other thing is retraining the family. And so in my case, it's just my husband and I, and so he knows when I'm talking, or you know, if he were to walk by, the camera on top of my monitor lights up blue, so he knows that I'm on some kind of call. And so if he needs me for whatever reason, he will act just like he did when I was working from the office, which is to text me and let me know something, which is really great. You know, I don't have children, but people who have children and are now homeschooling their children are finding that, trying to work with the kids and that everybody's sharing that same space, you have to try to figure out how we're going to make this work. And so, I've seen, you hang up a sign that says, I'm at work right now, and you need to let me have these 2 hours or whatever, and I'll come and have lunch with you, whatever's going to work with that family. But you have to retrain them. And it's not because you're home, so it's a free-for-all. You're still working and you need to have that separation. And so I've seen horror stories online about, families that are just like, nope, it's, I'm taking care of the kid in the middle of the meeting, and it just, that's not going to work for very long. And so whatever it is that you need to do. So for me, it was the space and, the green screen and everything. So also the space. So what's your background look like? So these are a couple of my backgrounds that I use, the kind of the generic bookshelf, and then this really pretty place. I don't know where it's at. I've also got this one. I've got a beach scene where the palm trees wave and the stuff. So it just, like I said, it really depends on who I'm meeting with, and what kind of tone I want to set. But that is one of the great things that I love about Zoom is they allow for a virtual background. And Kelly, I will tell you, your background is plain enough that you would be able to do this without a green screen if you chose to do it. Michael, yours would be a little harder, but you could hang a sheet or get a green screen or whatever if you chose to do that. So I just think it's very fun. And I actually have a client who takes great joy in the most creative backgrounds I can come up with. So I've had backgrounds where I have a dinosaur attacking me, and so kind of funny things. And he thinks that's very amusing, and but that's the tone that we've set for our meetings, and I think that's really great. So whatever you want to do. And fortunately, there are a million of these. You just put Zoom background in. Oh, excuse me. I'm sure that sounded really great in your ear. I apologize. So your space, make it comfortable, right? When I was working in my recliner, it is comfortable for sitting and watching television. It is not comfortable for sitting up with a laptop on my lap and then trying to, because I was kind of hunched over and looking down and everything, and I realized like my neck was hurting, my back was hurting, my hips were hurting, and so it was basically torturing myself, not really realizing it. And so now like I said, I have I don't know, you can kind of see a little bit behind me. I have this kind of off to the side is this roll top desk that was my mother's, and it's beautiful. It's as old as I am, and it's made out of oak, and it comes with its very own chair that is an oak chair. As you can imagine, oak chairs don't tend to be terribly comfortable for 8 hours a day. So I've had to pad it up a little bit because I want to keep the chair with it for the time being. So if this continues much longer, I may have to break down and go get an actual office chair to sit in that's a little more comfortable. So we'll see how that goes. But having good light, coming in, as you can see, I've got a lot of kind of decent light. I also have a lamp over here in case it's a little overcast like it is today. Michael's got some really great light. I can see he must be close to a window. I can see there's some natural light in there. Kelly, you've got just regular house light, it looks like. But if you can be near a window and get that light, it's good for your mental health all the way around too. So whatever's going to make it comfortable. I have lotion, and I have my mug of caffeine, and then I have a fan in case it gets too warm. And so just the little things that I need to make sure that it's comfortable and workable. I have a friend of mine gave me a little air plant, and so I have a little tiny air plant that's really hard to kill right beside me, so it's nice to look at. So what are the things that are going to make your space workable for you? And I encourage you, whatever it's going to be. I was using different headphones, and I finally, these ones I had at the office, and so I had to go to the office and get them. What I like about them is they block out all the noise from around the house. So if my husband's doing laundry or vacuuming or doing anything else, I can't hear it. he can listen to music or watch television, and it blocks it out. So that really works out well as far as that goes. So think about what's going to make your life comfortable. And again, elevating my workstation, and I've actually got this so that I can stand up and use it instead of sitting all day, which is something I didn't actually do in my other office. So 1 point for working at home there. Okay, so have a plan, weekly and daily. What are we going to do? So, it's so hard. And I've actually fallen into this really recently. Like I have people who I see, all the time. So I have people that I see every Tuesday, I have people I see every Wednesday, and then, there's stuff that kind of in and out. But, I realized yesterday thought it was Thursday, and it wasn't. It was Wednesday, obviously. And I was frantically trying to get a hold of a client because I wanted her to attend a different training. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to send you that. Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, it's tomorrow, so you're fine. And she goes, it's fine. Chaos really works out. And she was very, very kind, but I realized that I had actually, even though I am very rigidly scheduled with my Google Calendar, that I'd still kind of lost track of the day. Like I knew what was going on that day. I just lost track of what day it is, and I still have to look down at the computer and say, what day, like what's the actual date. And today's the 14th, right? Yes, it's the 14th. So doing a weekly plan of, okay, this is going to have it. So my stuff is already planned out, because I meet with clients, and so my weekly plan and my daily plan is pretty much done. But it can be really easy to be like, well, sit down and there's things to do and the distractions and whatnot. So putting this together, I think, really works out. And if you do it first thing in the morning when you get to work, if it's your last thing that you do before you leave your workspace, however you're going to do it, to plan is really, I think, in the beginning, regimenting as harshly and as hardcore as you can, and then revising until it's a comfortable thing, because we really have to retrain ourselves, and it takes a little while. What's the old saw that says it's 3 weeks to set a new habit? So we need to do these things until they are a habit, and then you're gonna, okay, I can let this go a little bit, not be quite so regimented. Okay. Staying motivated. My motivation's really easy. I have clients that I'm helping. And so I'm like, okay, I'm meeting with them and I'm doing that and stuff. But when I get done with meeting with them, then I'm like, oh, la, 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 internet, distraction. Ooh, YouTube video, this thing, that thing. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm 2 weeks behind in my data input, and I have stuff that I needed to do for my clients. So lists have been very, very useful for me. The one thing I need to do is get a better list than sticky notes around, because those are tending to not work as well for me. When I'm in my office, I actually have a to-do list that's a physical one that sits on the desk like a planner, and I can write as I go along and then cross things off. And there is something incredibly satisfying about check marking or crossing something off a list. Kelly's like, yes. And I mean, even if it's something that you did, but you didn't write it down and then cross it off. I know it sounds silly, but there's just that mental satisfaction. And, we are kind of an enclosed universe here right now. And so stuff that maybe your boss or a coworker or somebody else might have done, you kind of have to do for yourself now. So however it's going to work. So for me, crossing things off the list and being like, ah, I got that done, that makes me happy and everything's good and I feel accomplished. So you don't have to do lists, but I think it can be incredibly useful. So, okay, cool. Schedule all the things. So I am very much, my Google Calendar and I are married to one another, and I live and breathe by it. And I literally, you know, obviously have client meetings all over on it, but when I need to get things done, I block out time. And so literally when I was doing research on this, I blocked out time on my calendar to put together this presentation and find visuals to put on it and stuff, because otherwise it just wasn't going to get done. So especially in this day and age, like right now, is, you know, that routine, that regimenting, when you normally would have been like, well, normally this is when I would have gotten my cup of coffee at 10 o'clock and then done the things that I need to do. But because we're outside the norm, put it on the calendar and put, like, do a little reminder ding or something until it becomes routine for you. Okay. All right. So work, as far as establishing a process for collaboration. So we all work with people of some sort, right? I have a whole office of people that I don't see anymore. You know, we used to all share office space. Now we don't. And what are we doing? Well, it's, how are you going to do it? So we have started a weekly kind of Zoom check-in. That was literally just this morning, and it's a half an hour, pretty hard stop, you know, and we really quickly go through. The boss tells us anything that we need to know. He's also been sending out daily emails of updates, because we're the front lines for COVID for small business. So we've got a lot of information that we're having to process and parse and pass along to small businesses. So I anticipate that the fervor that we're dealing with stuff right now will eventually pass. But for right now, you know, the weekly check-in with my regional staff, then daily emails, and then our state office has started doing a daily Zoom in the afternoon for the entire state. And the one thing I will say is, I feel so much more connected with the rest of the state than I have in a very long time, because I usually see them 2 times a year, and then the occasional emails when we collaborate, like, hey, I need something, do you know this, or whatever. And so I do feel a lot more connected with them, which is really nice. So however you're going to put together your process. And so Zoom is an option. It's free up to so many participants, and 45 minutes, I think, right? Google has rolled out a new version of their Google Meet, and it's called Hangout, or no, I screwed that up. It used to be called Hangouts. It's now called Google Meet. My apologies. So, and it is very fulsome. It's completely free, so you don't have to subscribe to it. And it does a lot of the same things that Zoom does. And so I'll actually talk a little more about that here in a little bit. My husband's work has established a Facebook group for all the employees that are laid off. And so they all discuss back and forth via this Facebook group of what's going on, and going that, you know, some people are using text to go back and forth. Slack is a texting app that you can use that's more fulsome than just like a group text. I don't know if you've ever been involved in a group text, but they can be horrible. And especially if you're trying to track for work, trying to track specific parts of the conversation or something, or what people are doing. Slack actually divides it out. You can divide things into threads and whatnot. So LinkedIn groups are another option as well, kind of like the Facebook groups. The one thing that, and I'll talk about these a little bit more, is they're useful, but if you're dealing with any kind of confidentiality, which the two of you both have confidentiality with your clients, social groups probably aren't the best choice for you. So I would be careful about what you use them for and how, you know, what information you put out there. So Asana is basically an online project management. So if you're managing a group or part of a group, and you know, I'll talk about that more here in the tools section, but what is your process? You know, it used to be like, you know, my boss would either email me or walk into my office and say, can I talk to you for a second? And now it's like, well, he sends me an email, and, you know, and then sometimes I'm like, hey, I actually need to have a face-to-face with you or something. But our process has changed a little bit. And so if you're working with other people, then you need to figure out how that's going to look for your business. Impromptu meetings, I think, are fantastic. One of my colleagues is our COVID-19 CARES Act expert. We hired her literally the week that we shut down. And so instead of becoming a consultant like what I'm doing, she got assigned the CARES Act and the COVID response team. And so she's been doing all of our trainings, all of that. She's the one who has read the CARES Act probably more times than our legislature has. She goes through, she's just talking to the policymakers and everything, which is great. I'm so happy to have that resource so that I don't have to do it, because that would be a lot. But I had a question about something not too long ago. We were kind of going back and forth via email, and finally she said, hey, this would be so much easier. Can we just do a quick phone call? And so we zoomed in, and it took 10 minutes, and you know, which would have been, you know, 20 or 30 string email, right? And instead we did this, and it was nice to have that you know, connection with her and be face to face. So, you know, impromptu meetings, you can do them on Zoom, you can do them on Google Meet too. Breaks, you know, if you want to get away, you know, I go out in my yard and take my phone, and even though it's a screen, if I want to talk to somebody, you know, I can do it that way. I've been using an app called Marco Polo, which is actually kind of like just an electronic video texting. So you record a quick little video and it sends to the person, and then they record theirs back. So you're having a conversation, but it's like a text so that it can happen when you need to, rather than a phone call, which is, I have to dedicate all my time to you. So I think that's really nice. I know that people are doing virtual happy hours, you know, where they all kind of get together, and, you know, you could use FaceTime or Zoom or Meet or whatever, and just kind of sit down and relax and connect. I've actually sat down with friends and we've crafted together. We're like, you know, we're each working on whatever it is, and then just like this, and I'll be like, oh, here's my, you know, thing that I've done and stuff. So just, these are all ways to, you know, kind of relax and use these tools that we have. So keep them in mind. Deadlines. So for me, I need deadlines. Otherwise, it's just not going to get done. It's just, I need to have that. If it's just hanging out there, it's not going to get done. And it really helps establish the routine and make sure that I'm getting the work done that I need to do. So, you know, even if it's an arbitrary deadline that you're like, I'm going to have this done by end of day today. Boom. Okay. At least we've got, you know, some kind of deadline to get done. I find it to be incredibly helpful in my workflow. Team management. So this may not be relevant to either one of you, but for anybody who might be watching this in the future, well, I guess you can watch it in the past. I'm not sure. Time travel is not a thing yet. But you know, setting reasonable KPIs, those key performance indicators, right, or goals. You know, in this new day and age, I predict that we're not going to necessarily go back to having our offices the way they were. I think that working from home is going to continue to be a thing. Just yesterday, the day before, I read an article that said Twitter has basically said, we're not coming back into the office until September, and even when we do, we're still going to do work at home. So I think that we have been forced to accept that we can do this. It's not that hard, but it does change how we manage our people. You know, in the past, managers thought that sitting at the desk and putting in the 8 hours that's how you measure the performance. Well, we have to get a different bead on how we're measuring performance, and it's setting your key performance indicators, right? for me, it's how many hours of consulting that I do. So I meet with clients and then I write my notes, and just like, I chart like a medical professional, and it goes into our system, and I can go in and say, okay, well, my goal for the year is X number, and I'm at, 25% of that number at this point, and I should be at 30% by this point in the year. So, and that way, it's not about butts in the seats, and it's not about that screen time. And the studies have shown that people are actually much more productive when they're able to work this way without necessarily a manager over their shoulders. Now, obviously, there's some work that will not convert. Our restaurants, our grocery stores, our essential employees, they have to deliver in person. But after this kind of changes what we're doing, that team management. And so if you are managing teams, think about what it is beyond I've put in my 8 hours that I'm really measuring this employee on. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, great. So keeping in touch. When you're in the office, you walk by and at least say hello, or you meet in the kitchen, or you meet over at the printer, or the proverbial water cooler, or whatever it is, right? And so it's a little bit different. So how are you going to keep in touch? And I've already mentioned, how our office is handling that. We've got daily emails, we've got a daily check-in with our state, we've got a weekly check-in. So how are you going to do this to make sure that you are accessible? And my boss is always, he's like, is there anything that you need? Is there any issues that you're having? Please let me know. So making sure that you're available for your team members, and making sure that they don't feel like they're isolated and alone, because I think that's a very big part of working at home. I will say that, the first couple of weeks I felt before we had established all of these meetings and kind of gotten our processes in place, I felt very lonely, and I just kind of felt like I was treading water and trying to do all of these things. And now I feel like I'm supported and I have my team in place. And so that's really important for a variety of things. It helps my productivity. It helps my mental state. Okay, so some of the Zoom, or some of the tools that you can use, I've already mentioned, obviously we're using Zoom. Both of you are here, so I assume that you're somewhat familiar with Zoom, both of you, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Michael, are you using Zoom with your consulting?
Every day.
Every day. Cool. Okay. So you're familiar with it. So there's been some issues with some of the security. So, that's why when you logged in, you were put into a waiting room, because there's been these Zoom bombing things. I don't know if you've heard about them, where, if you let people into a meeting, they would take over the screen and start sharing very inappropriate things. And so, and I mean, somewhat funny, but very inappropriate. So our IT people basically went in and said, okay, we're setting this up so everybody gets to stay in a meeting room to begin with, and you have to be admitted, and none of you get to share your screen unless I give you permission. So if you wanted to share your screen right now, I'd have to go and change my security settings, which I think is great. So just being aware that that's an issue, and you both are dealing with confidential items, so you want to be aware of what's going on and how to address that with your companies. So I've already mentioned the virtual background and how much I really like that as an option. We can record, and obviously I am recording this, and I don't record all of my sessions. I try to record my training sessions, but my confidential consulting I don't, although I have had a client who we were meeting, and he was having a hard time because he was looking at it on his phone, and he said, could you just record this so I can watch it on my computer later, and I'll just listen to you rather than trying to deal with the technology? I said, absolutely. So I recorded it, uploaded it onto a private YouTube channel, and sent it to him. And that way the confidentiality was maintained for him, and he was able to review it at his leisure and do what he needed to do with it. So, using technology in all of its forms can be really great and really add to our experience. So only share what you mean to. So when you first came in, I shared this screen, but I purposely went through and shut down all the tabs on my in my browser. Because I didn't think you needed to see all my Facebook notifications and my calendar notifications and my email notifications and all the other stuff that comes along with using my computer, right? So I shut all of that down. I'm sure we've all seen the horror stories where somebody shows their tabs and there's things in the tabs that probably you shouldn't be sharing with everybody, looking at things. And so I don't have anything I wouldn't want to share, but by the same token, why take that chance? So, and every now and again you get, if you have multiple tabs open, sometimes they'll start playing sound randomly for you. I've actually had that happen in the middle of a meeting and been like, oh, I should have turn that off. So, be very careful about, sharing only what you mean to share. And so in Google Meet, the it has a lot of the same things like Zoom does, but it's 100% free. They can caption what's going on, and I just saw that Zoom actually does this too. I haven't used the captioning because I haven't needed it. Google Meet will record. They don't have a virtual background, which is, darn it, that's kind of a problem, but I'm sure that they'll come out with that. But it's definitely an option. If I have companies that, I'll be right there, Michael, let me finish this thought. But I have companies that they're like, we're not allowed to use Zoom because of the security issues. What are your alternatives? I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I can do a Google Meet. And for the time being, their security issues are fine with that. So, Michael, you?
Yeah, I just had a question. I don't understand what captions.
How it
Captions for what?
For the speaking, the closed captioning?
Oh, closed captions.
Yeah.
Like it's, oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So you can do closed captioning. So Google Meet in specific says, like, if you're in a noisy area, you can't quite hear, turn on the captions. Now, I'm sure that they're, because
Imperfect.
yes. So, and it probably has a lot to do with, the noise factor and how the AI is. And I base it on how Siri responds to me. And so I understand that I apparently have a mush mouth because Siri can't understand anything. So I'm assuming most AI is going to have a hard time with me for whatever reason, that I just don't enunciate well enough. Or Siri just hates me. I'm not sure what it is. So anyhow,
Yeah.
but I do know there are captions. I saw that, yeah, there's closed captioning on this, and assign a participant to type. Oh, I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to type. That's terrible. So
Yeah, I can't type that
I
fast.
can't either, and certainly not that. And if you think AI is bad, my typing would be terrible. So
Follow-up question.
yes,
Does Google Meet allow breakout rooms?
I believe so. Yes.
Ah, good, because that's a crucial thing for my groups. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
I
Good.
believe so. I will double check that and let you know, but I'm almost sure that I saw that as one of the options. So
Yeah, I'll check it out.
yeah, give that a shot. So Asana, I think I already mentioned Asana as a project management. So if you're doing a lot of projects, different things, and especially if you've got people that you're managing that are doing these projects, Asana is a great option. They have a free version that will allow you to manage upwards of so many people and so many projects, and you can put timelines in place and start dates for those, and kind of where the milestones should be. And there's actually like forms that they are integrated in. It's a really great little software package, and it comes with an app so that you can download it onto your mobile device as well. I've used it briefly working with some people and thought, wow, this is actually kind of cool. So if you're collaborating with a lot of other people, I could see where this would be a fantastic option for you. So I mentioned the social groups, LinkedIn and Facebook for particulars. Now, I'll go a little deeper into, the confidentiality of these. I would be very, very careful on using them if what you're doing needs to be kept confidential. Um, I know Facebook has definitely had some issues in the past where they allow third-party developers access to these things. And so I'm very careful with Facebook specifically, you know, like we do Facebook messengering with our group, our Facebook page. But I really try to direct it off the page as quickly as possible because Facebook has given other developers access to your messenger and all the messages that are in there. So, you know, if I have a client that contacts me and says, hey, can I set up an appointment? I'm like, yes, email me and let's do it that way, because I don't want them to share financials or anything that's confidential about their business on that. And so Facebook has established that, so I'm worried that the groups are kind of the same situation. And I don't know about LinkedIn, but because it's a social platform that's free and you are the you know, basically the commodity of that platform, you have to be a little careful of what you choose. So it can be an incredibly powerful thing. Just if you have confidentialities issues, then be careful with you using them. And if not, like my husband works for a bookstore, and so it's perfect for them. They're all on Facebook and they can all go back and forth and read it, and it's really a great tool for them, and it's free. And so, but you know, there's nothing confidential about, you know, what books they're going to put on the shelf, right? So they're in good shape as far as that goes. Okay. So breaks. Remember to take a break. You know, that's one of the things that I kind of get caught up on is forgetting, and I'll just sit here and I'm like, oh, I'll finish up with this, and then I've got to do 14 emails, and then all of a sudden, you know, by the time I get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I have screen fatigue, where, you know, normally when I work in my office, you know, I will do my screen time and then I'll turn around and talk face to face with a person. Well, now I don't have that option. Everything's on a screen, and so it's really, like I said, I'm getting that screen fatigue. The other thing that I have noticed is that when I'm at my office at Boise State, it is a little bit of a trek for me to get out of my building and get to the outdoors, and so I don't. You know, if I have 10 minutes in between meetings, the best I can do is maybe get to the restroom, maybe grab something to eat, and be ready for the next client. Well, if I have 10 minutes home, I can literally pick up whatever I'm going to eat or my drink and step outside. It's a 30-second walk to my front yard, and I've sat down and I've actually started doing that and going out and spending time in my front yard that I haven't done in years. And so it's actually very nice to get that fresh air and take a break. And so however you're going to do that, but you know, even if it's just standing up and getting away from the screen for a few minutes, but remember to take a break. Schedule it on your phone to, you know, send you a notification. I have a Fitbit that tells me every hour to stand up and go walk, you know, which is great. I ignore it, but it tells me to. It's very nice, right? Take some time to stretch. You know, for some reason, I am so much more sedentary here in my home than I am at the office. I don't know why. Possibly because I don't have to go very far to go get a drink. It's literally a couple of steps. I'm not printing anything because I don't have a printer at home, so I'm not walking. The bathroom's very close. Everything's very much smaller than when I'm at work. So I'm finding that I'm a lot stiffer. And so, you know, stretching and at least, you know, standing up and, you know, getting some space in between all of those bones and stuff, and making those muscles work a little bit. And so, okay. Next, the fresh air. You know, I mentioned I'm going outside more than I ever did and appreciating the springtime that we've got going on, which is, it's been lovely, except for today it's raining. I've actually started doing Instagram Live from my front yard every day. I do a lot of social media management for the SBDC, and as I learn these channels and do stuff so that I could pass it along to my clients. So it's been really nice. I hadn't had time to do that before, but now I'm going outside and I'm like, oh, I'm doing missives from my front yard, and literally like being Gladys Kravitz and being like, so the neighbor's got a new driveway, you know, kind of silly stuff like that. But I'm taking that time away from this screen. I mean, I am looking at a different screen, but it's in a different capacity and it's outside. So I literally, Tuesday, I think, our state meeting, I just couldn't stand it anymore. I went outside and I did the meeting outside, and with my sunglasses on, and because it was sunny that day, and my phone and everything. And I was like, I just need to be outside. And it was really nice. So think about, you know, how you can do these things. Usually I don't have good enough internet connection to do something like this kind of out in the yard. But for that meeting, I didn't have to participate. I just had to listen. So it was great. Contact your loved ones, you know, call mom, check in on those older friends, those immunocompromised people. Just take some time to do those connections. You know, a quick text message. You know, I mentioned the Marco Polo. I do that as well. When I step outside, I record a couple of Marco Polos to different people, keeping in contact. I'm actually keeping in much better contact with people now than I was before. So, you know, however it is or whatever you're doing, but, you know, take that moment in your breaks. It's great. I mentioned that, you know, when my husband needs to get hold of me while I'm at work, he texts me most of the time because he doesn't want to interrupt my work, which is great. And if I need him, a lot of times I will quickly text him, like, you know, the cat poop odyssey that I mentioned. I was like, honey, come take care of the cat because he did the thing. And so which is, you know, but it was really nice to have that as an option as well. So however you're going to do that, but keep that as an option. Take a lunch break. I know we're working through lunch right now. And if we had done this in person, we actually had a sponsor that was going to buy us lunch, which I was very disappointed that we had to move this virtually, and darn it. But anyhow, take time and, you know, take a lunch. I always eat at my desk when I'm at the office, and my keyboard suffers from all the crumbs and stuff that are in it. I actually have here at home a silicone keyboard, so it's much better. But I have started, if the weather's nice, like today it won't be, but trying to just get away from the screen and go outside and take, you know, some time and go sit. My husband takes his book out and sits in the yard. I'm not in the headspace to be able to focus on reading right at the moment, so I have to do something else. But at least I took a lunch. Take a break, make sure that you're getting away from this, because I think that we just kind of like, I'm here, I'm working, and I'm making good progress because we are so much more productive at home because we don't have those people walking in and saying, hey, can I have a minute? Hey, can I ask you a question? Hey, the printer's jammed. Do you know so-and-so, right? At my office, that's what happens, right? You know, I work with 10 or 12 other people, and sometimes they're just walking by and waving and going, hey, how are you doing? And I have to stop and be like, I'm fine, how are you, right? I don't have any of that. So the distractions at home, as far as that goes, are pretty minimal. And so it leaves me to be very focused and be, oh my gosh, I got this thing done and this thing done, and no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, I literally haven't stood up in 3 hours. And my knees tell me that it's time to do that when I stand up, and they crack. So I'm officially at that age when everything makes funny noises when I stand up, which is awesome. Nobody warned me about this when I was younger. I don't know that I could have done anything about it, but, you know, it would have been nice to have a warning. So when it's the end of the day, make it the end of the day. You know, what time are you done? You know, don't continue, like some days, like when I'm working in the office, I kind of work until I'm done. And, you know, I kind of aim for 5-ish. But, you know, I'll be working on something, and sometimes it'll be 6:30 or so. And I'll look at the clock and go, holy crap. I'm still working. Home, I've been very meticulous and say, okay, I'm done. And I close my laptop or move my screen, I take down the green screen and I'm done working. And there's been, in the 6 weeks, maybe twice that I've jumped on the computer to work on a couple of things that I forgot to do. But in general, I'm able to keep my 8 hours in the 8 hours, which is really nice. I saw this, unplug the laptop, and when the battery dies, it's time to stop. I thought, gosh, that's kind of brilliant. If you have a laptop that has good battery life, right? If you have a laptop that only has 2 hours of battery life, well, I guess that's when you take a break. But I thought that is kind of brilliant. It's a really smart thing. So, however, it's just so easy. You're home, and it's like, oh, I'll just sit down and answer an email real quick. I'll da 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 da. Keep that separate. We need that for good mental health. So, and look at here. We are done. I managed to get through everything in a little over an hour. So what questions or what nuggets did you particularly like, or do you think I missed anything in particular that I didn't cover? Or tell me, since this is the first time I've done this particular one, and I'm not sure, I might continue to do it. I don't know whether it's needed. It might be. We'll see. But tell me what you thought if you want to share, or run away and get some lunch. Go stretch. Take that break that you need. Whatever you need to do. So tell me, what do you need from me?
I don't need anything right now. I actually do have a question.
Yeah.
This incubator or accelerator that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That's a physical location that's set up for. Is that operative now? I'm assuming not.
Yeah.
Or is it? It is operative.
It is actually operative right now. Most of our small businesses that are working are single owners anyhow, and so they're coming in and working like in their office and staying socially distant and doing that. There's a couple of them that have employees, and I'm not entirely sure how they're dealing with that. But I was told that it's fully open and it's accessible. And so,
is there? I assume there's some kind of charge for that.
yeah, and I don't know the exact pricing, but I can follow up with the email or the website for, because basically we have like a screening process. So if you're interested in that, you just fill out the application, and our screening committee will talk to you and say, okay, yeah, you're a good fit for this. Or last I heard we were full, but I suspect that COVID is going to lay waste to a few of our businesses. Unfortunately, that is the reality of where we are right now. And so they may be moving back home to save on money. The pricing is not market rate, but I can't tell you exactly what it is. I think between $300 and $500 a month, but I could be wrong. And so, so I can, like I said, I'll send you the link for that. And then what was it? Shonda will probably reach out and talk to you. Shonda or Marissa are the two people who manage those facilities for us. So,
and if I wanted to talk to your CARES Act expert,
her name is Ruth. And I can put you in contact with her. Well, actually, what I'll probably do is have you get in contact with Shonda. Shonda is our regional administrative assistant, and she takes care of all of our calendaring for all of us. And so what I'm going to do is say, I think Michael's ready to meet with Ruth. Or so anyhow, she'll talk to you and say, oh, well, maybe you just needed to attend one of the trainings that we've got coming up, and you don't actually need to talk to Ruth. So, but I will mention that to her and have her make that determination. So
yeah, these are just good things for me to know about. In
Absolutely.
terms of this the webinar, I think there wasn't anything here that I didn't already know, but it was I set myself up to do this because I'm not good at organizing my space, my routine, et cetera, et cetera. So I just needed to hear this. So it was really most important for me was just the reminders that to create a structure around my working in order to be productive and not blur the line between hanging out at home and being at work. So just hearing you talk about it kind of strengthened my resolve to get my stuff together.
I think that's great. Yeah, I don't think there were no secrets to the universe. These are all things that you've heard or read articles from, but it's just good to have that, reiteration of, oh yeah, I didn't even think about, this thing or whatever. And so, even as I was putting this together, I was like, oh yeah, I should have done this a lot sooner and implemented it. It got implemented for me, but it would have been better if I had implemented it a little sooner, I think. But we all learn at different speeds, I think. So how about you, Kelly?
For me, I needed it reinforced. I'm actually working more from home than when I'm in the office, and I have to remember to take breaks and to take a lunch break and to get up and get away, because I will find that I'm working a lot longer while I'm here, because it's such a short commute and I not get it done. And then all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock at night. Oh yeah, probably should stop at some point.
Yeah, we need that break from work. There's a reason why we have shorter, that we put work weeks into place and stuff. So it was interesting. I just was talking to a client who said that, her team used to work 9-hour, it was the 9-hour shift, right? So 9 hours with an hour lunch. And she said that now that they're home, they're actually getting all their work done in 6 hours, but they're just as productive in that 6 hours, because there's not the, hey, can you help me with this, or can you answer this quick question or whatever. And so, and she's like, and that's absolutely fine. She goes, I don't think that we're going to go back to having everybody have to come back in the office. I thought, wow, that's really interesting how our world is going to change for that. And there's some businesses that won't, but some that will, definitely. So but great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that you were so kind to talk to me and show me your lovely faces, so that I could feel like because a lot of our trainings we do with no cameras on, and so I can see me, and so I can just talk to myself. And so it was nice to actually talk to actual people during a training, because that's one of my great joys, is training people and talking to them and doing these things. And it's been a much different situation where we're not in person, and I can't look you in the eye and say, oh, they're really catching this, or their eyes are starting to glaze over, I've talked too long, or or they're shifting in their seats because they're uncomfortable because I've talked way too much or whatever. So it was nice to have some visual feedback that way. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to call it good, end it. I will follow up and send you the YouTube link if for some reason, like, you get going along and you're like, I want to look at something that she mentioned and just kind of reiterate. And by the way, always, our services are available to you. I will follow up with Shonda's contact information, because she's the one, like I said, she manages the calendars. And so if you want to come in and talk to one of us, then by all means get hold of her, and let's get you on the calendar and help you with whatever issues, because we help with. Right now, of course, we're focused on the CARES Act and the COVID and the financing and all that stuff. But, we work with people, figuring out how to hire employees and how to fire employees and how to market their business and how to figure out their online presence and what's wrong with my P&L and why don't I have any cash flow, or I need to put together a loan to go to the bank, or, any of the myriad things that go along with owning and managing your own business, we can help with. And so let us help you and not have to struggle and figure it out on your own.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much for coming. And we'll go get some lunch, go stretch, I don't know, maybe go outside. I'm going to try it. I'm probably going to regret it, but I'm going to go outside. So
take your rain gear.
Yep, definitely. I'll have to put on shoes. I think I should probably put on shoes at the very least. So, all right. Have a lovely rest of the week.
All right.
Thanks.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.